based here in the US has become a leader for talent in your time zone and even your location. Here at Pronix, we continue to meet the growing demand for US-based talent. We know your time is valuable, and we are grateful to have you here now. Our goal is to make your investment of time with us today pay back significantly. Today, we will provide a 20-minute presentation over the Microsoft Power Platform with a focus on development with the Canvas low-code application development tool. Following the presentation, we'll conduct a live demo. And if you'd please provide your questions in the Q&A section, we'll take them at the end. Today, I have a pleasure of introducing Sai Krishna. Sai has done over 18 application development projects on the Power Apps platform. Our clients always tell me how much they have learned from Sai and are amazed at the solutions he has developed. Sai has completed applications development with Power Apps on a number of projects, like a chart of accounts governance tool, providing the ability to include 3-level approvals and generate unique codes for multiple modules like the general ledger, product codes, profit center, and cost center. Also, another project was an identity access management portal to centrally manage access to the applications in the organization, assigning licenses, adding users to security groups, which required approval, and some auto approval based on sensitivity. He also created an inventory management application for day-to-day activities, taking a purchase order that can also be placed by generating an invoice and sending it on to a trader. He's also automated email reminders that are sent daily when there are delays in shipments or in invoice payments. As more organizations are developing with Power Apps platform, we are getting requests from our clients to provide a little education and confirm what they understand of the platform. We can't keep asking Sai to work 80-hour weeks, so we brought him here today to try and share his experience with you all. So now, without further ado, Sai, the floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you, Ray. Hello, everyone. So today's webinar is about maximizing efficiency with Microsoft Power Apps and Power Automate. So before we start, let me tell you about myself. So I'm a developer working with the Pronix, and I'm a certified Microsoft Power Apps and Power Apps app maker, and a Microsoft certified trainer, and many more certifications on the way. So let's start with the agenda. So today's agenda is, let's discuss what is Microsoft Power Platform, why do we need Power Apps, and types of Power Apps we have, and why there is more demand on Canvas apps, integration with other data sources, anatomy of Canvas, and when to start with the Canvas app, and a quick demo, and later we can have a Q&A session. Moving to next slide. So Microsoft Power Platform comprises of multiple products, which include Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents. So it's a low-code platform which comprises all these products. Most of you already know what is Power BI. It's a reporting tool which we can create reports and dashboards. Whereas using Power Apps, we can create business applications for any organization. One simple example is leave request application, expense tracker, inventory management, these kind of business applications. And Power Automate, if you want to make any automation in day-to-day activities, we can make use of Power Automate. We'll discuss more in the next further slides. And Power Virtual Agents is like creating a chatbots. So if you log into any website, at the bottom right corner, you'll be seeing a chatbot. So we can create such chatbots, interactive chatbots using Power Virtual Agent. So all these products have multiple connectors, like nearly more than 600 plus connectors. And there is also artificial intelligence, which is included in these products. And Microsoft Dataverse is the data storage, which is dedicated for Microsoft and all these products. Now let's discuss about Power Apps. So why do we need Power Apps? Because it's easy to develop the web application or mobile application. So if you develop an application in the tablet, you can access in mobile and web or a browser. You can access anywhere with just a link. And if you want to share this application, you can share it quickly, just like a file sharing or a document sharing. And this can be accessible in any platform like iOS, Android, Windows. You just need to have an internet and your business email. That's it. So it's a low-code platform. Any user with no development experience can use these Power Apps. So if you just have a experience using Excel and PowerPoint, you're good to start with Power Apps. Now in the next slide, let's talk about the types of Power Apps we have. We have three types of Power Apps: Canvas apps, model-driven apps, and Power Apps portal. So in Canvas app, we have to start with the design. So if you are mainly focused on the UI design, UI level elements, and if you want to build any task-based or role-based applications, and you want to connect with multiple data sources, let's say I need an application which can connect to SharePoint, SQL, Dataverse, Excel at once, and transform the data and show the result in the application and do some operation. So in those scenarios, we can use Canvas apps. Whereas model-driven app, it can connect only with the Dataverse. It's a Microsoft's own data storage. So if you have some complex relationships, and if you have business process to be taken place and end-to-end business applications, one example is onboarding staff, like onboarding employees to your organization. If you want any responsive applications, we can start with model-driven apps. And you need an application. So generally Power Apps is only for the business, like within the organization. So if you want any user, if you want to share an application outside the organization, it cannot be done. So Canvas and model driven are confined within the organization. Whereas you want to build an application, but you have to give access to the external users. There comes Power Apps portals. So Power App portals can let internal access and also external access to the Dataverse. It's like a website with anonymous access. And also portal can connect only with the Dataverse. So seems like we have more advantages on Canvas, considering it can connect to multiple data sources. So let's discuss about Canvas apps more further. So Canvas apps helps business users or any user with just who are having the Excel or PowerPoint skills. So if you have to keep this short, if you know some of the basic functions in Excel, so you'll find similar kind of functions in Power Apps. And the Power App Studio, it looks similar to PowerPoint. So either you can start with if you have a data ready, if you have a data model ready and database, everything ready, you just need a platform to view the data or transform the data. You can start with the data and you can use Power Apps to connect to the front end. Or you have your design in mind. So you need like 5 text boxes and a button. Button should be in green color. You have a design in your mind and you want to start with the design. So you can build a design in the Power App Studio, then you can worry about the data. So later using the connectors, you can connect it to Canvas app. So one main advantage is once you develop any Canvas app, it can be accessible through web, browser, like mobile, tablet, any platform. Let's deep dive more into Canvas, going to connectors. So if you want your application to connect to any other data source, so we need a connector. So for example, I want to connect to Outlook. So we have Outlook connector. We have SharePoint connector. So overall, we have 600 plus connectors available, and Microsoft is adding more and more connectors on daily basis. If you have a SharePoint on-premise database, don't worry, we have a data gateway. So we can use data gateway to connect to on-premise data database and make the data accessible to the Canvas app. So if you have a REST API, we can also build a custom connector and access the data through REST API. And also one important thing is if you are using Power Apps, one of the important thing we focus is about licensing. So coming to the licensing part, there are 2 types of connectors here. We have standard and premium. So every user in the organization will have a basic license, that is enterprise license, which lets users to have Office 365, Outlook, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams. So enterprise license also include Microsoft Power App license. That is a basic license. So using that license, you can access all the connectors, like that is standard connectors. So standard connectors examples are Outlook, SharePoint, Microsoft Forms, OneDrive for Business, and Excel. So these are some of the standard connectors we have. And coming to anatomy of Canvas, which means how many branches we have, like what are the advantages and why we need Canvas. So firstly, any platform support. So if you're using it on a mobile, so Power App can access the device related data like camera, GPS, pen. So you might be knowing like when any Amazon delivery guy comes to your door and ask you to sign on the mobile. So we can build such kind of application through Power App with just through a few clicks. And also sharing of the application. So if you would like to share an application, so by clicking on three dots and you just have to click on share and enter the user email address. That's it. You can share the application which you develop to any user within your organization. And coming to integration. So we can integrate this Power App in any other platforms like Power BI. So you can embed a Canvas app within the Power BI and make the Power BI and Power App interactive. So when you click on a row in the Power BI, it will show that rows related data in the Canvas app. And if you want to perform some any operation like addition, or you want to do some manipulations in the data, you can do through Power App, and it will be automatically reflected in the Power BI dashboard. So instead of going into a particular web browser or a particular link to access the Power App, if you want to integrate within the Teams, that is also possible. You can integrate this Canvas app to Microsoft Teams. And as we discussed in the previous slide, connectors, we have n number of connectors, and more connectors are being added day by day. So you don't have to worry about the connectors. If you have a REST API, we can use custom connectors. And coming to the data platform, we have Dataverse, which is a premium connector. So you can use Dataverse. It's like in short terms, if I have to explain, it's like a SQL database, but more compatible with Canvas apps. So the performance when you use the Dataverse with Canvas apps is more when compared to other data sources. It's a relational database. You can build relationships and lookups. And we also have AI, which is integrated in the Power App. So let's say you have a SharePoint list. Just an example, you have a SharePoint list and you want to build an application. On a few clicks, Power Apps will automatically create the application for you, and you can customize it further. So in the coming slides, I'll explain the flavors and how many types we can create. Let's go to next slide. So coming to Canvas app flavors, we can create 4 different kinds of applications within Canvas. One is standalone Canvas. So you'll be provided with a link on clicking a link, you can access the Canvas app on a mobile or a tablet. So you can build responsive applications. So you just have to go to make.powerapps.com and view the Power Apps, and on a click of a link, it will take you to the Power App. Whereas when you come to SharePoint customized forms, I know most of them we already knows about InfoPath, which is already deprecated, and everyone are moving to Microsoft Power Apps. So using Power Apps, we can build more advanced capabilities when compared to InfoPath. So we also did multiple projects like migrating InfoPath forms to Power App. So we used Power Apps and Power Automate tools to make it more responsive, which is already built in InfoPath. And Dataverse for Teams. So let's say you don't want to go to any other URL. Let's say make.powerapps.com. You have a channel and you have a Teams in the Microsoft Teams, and you want to build that application which is accessible only for the users in that particular team. So we have Dataverse for Teams, in which you can build an application within the Teams and publish in the Teams. You can also play that particular application while you're on the call in Microsoft Teams. Coming to Power BI connected apps, as I said, we can connect Canvas apps into Power BI dashboard, and also you can embed a Power BI report within Canvas app. It's vice versa. So let's talk about the integration. So integration part, most of the customers or clients we get is to integrate the Canvas app with the SharePoint customized forms and Power BI. So it can be integrated to SharePoint, Power BI, Teams, Search. So you can also have Canvas apps integrated within the model-driven application. Coming to next slide. So this is the most important part, when to start with the Canvas app. So let's say I don't have any development skills and I just know the basic skills of Excel and PowerPoint, then I'm in the right path. I can start with Power Apps because it's a low code platform. Everything is readily available in the studio. You just have to know the proper functions to use. So, and the next important point is you'll have the complete control over the application design. So when you talk about the model driven app, the UI design is restricted. Whereas when it comes to Canvas app, it's not restricted. And data sources. So at once I can connect to multiple data sources. Like as I said, we can connect to SharePoint, Excel, Dataverse at once in one single application. And main important part is licensing. So if you want to use Canvas app, you don't have to have any licensing if you're using a standard connector, because every user will by default have a enterprise license. Enterprise license will leverage you to use standard connectors wherein you can use Power Apps. So if you want to use model driven or portal, you have to go with the premium license. Whereas to use Canvas apps and to use standard connector, we don't need any license. We just need to have enterprise license, like a Microsoft 365 license. So this is the interesting factor where we have more demand on Canvas, because most of the customers comes with the data source as a SharePoint and build an application on top of it. So most of the applications we develop or with the SharePoint as a data source and Canvas app as a front end. So let me show a quick demo. Next slide. It's about a quick demo. So I'll take one real-time scenario which we developed for a client. So let me know once my SharePoint is visible.
We can see it.
All right. So let's say, so the client, what they are doing was it's a small sized company and they are building an application. So they are doing a leave request application. So they have a SharePoint with the employee name, type of leave, start date, end date, number of days, manager, approval status, so on. So they are doing it manually. So on clicking of new button, they are entering employee name. Let's say I enter Kishore. Type of leave is sick. Start date from, let's say, 23rd to 24. It's 2 days. They're entering it manually. Manager, let me add myself. Approval status pending. Comments we don't need. So they're adding the data manually. So again, manager should be intimated by the user, employee, and manager should come here manually and then double click it, open the record, click on edit, and change the status back to approved or rejected. So we help the client in enhancing this application, so integrating it with the Canvas app. So now I'll show two methods. One is custom SharePoint form, which is integrated with Power Apps, and another one is standalone Power Apps. So as we discussed earlier, we can create different types of applications. So firstly, let's discuss about SharePoint customized Power Apps form. So to start with that, you have to click on Integrate, Power Apps, Customize Form. So it will take you to a Power Apps page. So this is the form which is connected directly to the SharePoint. Now this is the Power App Studio. So it looks similar to PowerPoint. If you see, when I click on insert, I can see all the controls which I can add in Power App. So if I want any icons, I can click on icon. I can add any icon which is available here. So if I want to add a label, I can click on the label. So firstly, I'll click on the form, and at the right hand side, we have edit fields. I'll add all the required fields. So I'll click on add field. We have employee name already. Then I'll select a type of leave. Type of leave, start date. Where is end date? End date. Number of days. Yeah, here it is. Manager. And then approval comments. Sorry, approval status and approval comments. So this is the form we have in SharePoint. So now let's customize it in Power Apps. Let's say first scenario is user should not be able to see approval status and approval comments, because in real-time scenario, only manager should see the approval status and approval comments. So let's add this business rule here. So the way to pick user email is, first we have to unlock this and find data card value. So this is the data card. If you see at the left hand side, this is the data card, which is approval status data card. Approval status data card should be visible only if the manager email is the logged in user's email. So the way to write that code is, so click on this data card, go to properties at the right hand side, go to visible property. And it's a just simple if function. If data card value dot selected dot email equals to user dot email comma true comma false. So if you don't know the code, if you don't know how if function works, you just don't need to worry. If data card value dot selected dot email equal to user dot email, at the top it will guide you. So what should be the true value and what should be the else value. So Power Apps will guide what kind of work. If I'm writing the if function, it will guide me how to write the if function. If you're writing a patch or a search function, it will guide you the syntax. What should be the next parameters. Similarly, the same business logic should apply for approval comments. So I'll click on this data card in the visible property. I'll apply this rule. So as I'm the logged in user, as I am Sai Krishna, these two values are being shown. If I play the app at the top right, and if I change this user or remove this will be hidden. So if I add Kishore as manager, it will not be shown because logged in user is Sai Krishna, but manager is Kishore. It won't be shown. So these kind of business logics can be written easily. Let me change it back to my name. And being approver, this is kind of boring, like that is pending, approve, rejected. I need something like a pop-up. So the moment I open the application, so I just need a button, approve or reject. I need a pop-up which says add approval comments and then submit the form. So the way to build the pop-up is we have to use a variable. So now I'll use a control. It says label, which will cover the entire screen, because the control or the component which I'm going to create right now, which will work as a pop-up, because we don't have out-of-box pop-up functionality or the component. So we are building a custom component for the pop-up. So now I added a label, I removed the text, and for the time being, I'm marking the color as gray. So now I'll decide what I should see on top of this component. So I need a white background in the middle, because Canvas app, mostly people choose Canvas app, especially for the design. So I have to make sure we are building a good design. So I'm using a white background here at the center of the screen. Now, the reason for building pop-up is to capture approval comments. So I'll use it's not a label. I'll click on insert text input. So text input is the control which captures text user input. So it's a single line text. If I want to change it to multi-line, I can click here and change it to multi-line. Now, I don't want the default text. At the right hand side, I'll remove default. Now I need two buttons, submit and cancel. I'll insert button. So I will rename as cancel. And I'll rename this as submit. All right. So for the users to look like a pop-up, there should be transparency, right? So I'll click on a label, and at the top left-hand side, you can see properties. You can go to fill property and change 1 to 0.9 or 0.8. So this will give you some essence that this is a pop-up. So we can group all these components. So these are all the components which will work as a pop-up, and I'll click on 3 dots group. We can also rename this. I'll make it as GRP pop-up. Now we need a control or a function which enables on a click of a button. So firstly, on click of cancel, I'll declare a variable on select, on advanced on select, set var pop-up to false. And the same code on submit button, on select, set var pop-up to false. So I'll give this variable to this entire group. I'll select the group, properties, visible property, Control V. Now we need a button. We need a button somewhere down below which says approve or reject. In order to add that, we have to select a SharePoint form, edit fields, 3 dots, add custom card. So now we have a custom card, and we'll click on insert. I need 2 buttons. One will be approve and another will be reject. So I will rename, I'll click on this button, text as approve. And the way I'm creating another button is simply Control C and Control V. So I click this button, I did Control C on the keyboard and did Control V. So it just replicated this control. So it's same like using in Excel or PowerPoint. I'll mark this as reject. Now on click of these buttons, approve or reject, so I should show that pop-up. So when on click of this button, on select, I'll say set var pop-up to true. Set var pop-up to true. So one more tip is, if you want to add the same code in the on select property of the buttons or 2 controls, on clicking control, you can select these controls, CTRL button on your keyboard. On clicking control, you select these controls, click on the property. So on select, I want to trigger something. So on select, I'm writing the code, set var pop-up to true. So this variable will not submit the form, but it will just show the pop-up. When I click on cancel, pop-up will be gone. So this is one of the basic component, like building a pop-up in the Canvas app or Power Apps. I think this looks good when compared to the native SharePoint form. Now, as a user, I should not see approval status and approval comments. So whatever the comments I write here, on this text box should be replicated in approval comments. The way we have to do is copy this text input, the name of this control. So I want to, whatever I write in this text box, I want to display in approval comments. So copy the name of the control, select the control, unlock, and in the default property, write text input dot text. That's it. So when I click on any button, approve. So when I write, let's say approving, it will be automatically displayed down below. So when you talk about SharePoint, so SharePoint custom form, whatever the value you have in the native data cards will be displayed. So that is the reason why we are forcefully adding the data. So we cannot submit the data which is outside the form, but we can submit the data which is inside the form. So approval comments is the data card which is inside the form. So we are fetching the information from the control which is outside. Now again, approval status. So on click of approve, it should become approved. On click of reject, it should become rejected. Now again, I'll make use of a variable. Let's say set var status to approve. I'm just declaring a variable of type text, and in the reject. So if you want to write multiple, code or multiple functions, you just have to use semicolon. You can put semicolon and write n number of functions. Now, whenever I click on approve, so this status should change. So I'll click on this drop down. So if you want to edit any components inside a form, all the data cards will be logged. You have to click on advanced and unlock the data card. For example, if I show here, it's logged. If I want to edit any component inside the data card, I have to unlock. So now I want to default this value based on this button input. So in the approval status, in the default selected items, I'll write the variable var status. So when I click on reject, it will turn to rejected. It will turn to rejected. When I click on approve, it will turn to approve. So this is how we manage these. So now we have approve and reject buttons. So now we don't need these, data cards. So we can turn off this visibility to false. And also we don't need approval comments. We can turn off these visibility to false. Okay. So this section should be visible only if the manager is the logged in user. So the same code we wrote. So if data card value 6 dot selected dot email equal to user dot email. So user is the function which will fetch the details of the logged in user. So user is one of the function in Power Apps which will generally fetch the logged in user's email. So this is the form which we created. And one more quick code, let's write in the number of days. So user is manually entering the number of days. Now let's make it automatic. So it's just simple mathematics, start date minus end date. So in order to write code, so we need to change the value in this particular control. So we already unlocked it. So let's find the name of this data card. It's data card value 3. It should be minus data card value 4. So in order to find the difference between two date. So the formula is date diff. Date diff of data card value 3 dot selected date, comma data card value 4 dot selected date. So one tip is date diff function will ideally do -1. So it will not consider 22, 23, 24. it will consider from 23 and 24. So when you're subtracting two dates, I suggest to put +1 after date diff. So still, if I change the date from 24 to 28, it will show 7 days. Still, user is able to change the values. So we need to restrict this. To restrict this, click on this control, display mode, click on the display mode. So in order to disable, it will be display mode dot disabled. Now if I change from 28 to 25, it's 4, 22, 23, 24, 25. So this is how we develop. It's a to create a SharePoint custom form. And on click of approve, we have everything. But on click on submit, we have to submit form. So in order to submit the form, the code is semicolon submit form of SharePoint form 1, because SharePoint form 1 is the name of the form. Submit form of SharePoint form 1 semicolon. For SharePoint custom forms, we need to use the last function, that is request hide. I'll explain why we are using request hide. So this is how we customize the application in Power App. And once you are done, at the top right, this is the way to publish. Click on publish. Your app will be published. And then publish to SharePoint. And now it's published to SharePoint. Now I'll go back to SharePoint. Leave. So once you're done with the development, simply click on refresh. Now I'll click on new. Now this application will be opened in Power Apps. So this is the form which we just edited in Power Apps. So this will open in the Power Apps view. So now I can write employee name, let's say Sharath, type of leave vacation, start date is 27, end date is 28. So it will automatically count number of days. Let's say manager as Kishore. Save. So if I want to action on this request, on this particular request, if I double click, I'll not see approve reject buttons, because the logged in user, which is me, is not the manager displayed. So this is how simple we can write the code in Power App. So just for demonstration purpose, I'll change the manager to my name to just show that if manager name and the logged in user is same, we can see approve buttons. When I change the name to Sai, I can see approve reject buttons. Now Sharath will inform me, Sai, I raised a vacation request, please go ahead and approve. So I'll double click, I'll click on edit all, approve, approved, submit. So now we got the approval status as approved, approval comments as approved. So this is how faster we can develop using Power Apps. And this method is SharePoint custom form. And another way is using it's a standalone Power App. Let's say I want to build an application on top of this list. So I'll simply go to make.powerapps.com. Make.powerapps.com. It will take you to this page. I'll go to create, and let's say I'm the beginner to Power Apps. So I'll click on create and I'll click on SharePoint. I want to build an application through SharePoint. So I'll click on SharePoint. Then it will ask you to use connection. So I want to use SharePoint connection. So if it's already present, you can select the connection. Otherwise, you can click on new connection and select SharePoint. It's just a one-step process. Click on SharePoint. It will list all the sites which you have access. I have the demo site. I'll click on demo. And I want to build an application based on leave request list. So click on leave request, connect. So Power Apps will work for you and create an application for you. It's like a mobile-based application. Now you can go ahead and further enhance the application as per your requirement. So Power Apps will automatically write the code for you. For example, if I click on a plus button, so what is written on plus button? On select, new form of edit form, navigate to this particular screen. So Power Apps will automatically write the code and it will generate an application like a 3-screen application: browse screen, detail screen, and edit screen. So when you click on plus, this is a new form which we just developed in SharePoint custom form. So we can still further enhance this form. And when I click on this particular item, it's just a view page. And on click on this pencil icon, it will take you to the edit page. So this kind of application is known as a standalone Power App. So when I click on publish, leave request app, save. And I want to share this application, let's say to Nick. So I'll click on share. If you guys have not observed, at the top right, we'll see a share icon. When you click on this share icon, it will take you to this page. Now I want to share this application to Nick. I'll select this user and then click on share. Now Nick will receive an email with the link to the application, and the link will look like this. So if you can give this application, this particular link to any user, on click on this hyperlink, sorry, the link, it will take you to the Canvas app, which is built just few minutes ago. So this is a mobile view. You can also build using a tablet mode. So I'll also quickly show few of the inbuilt templates which are readily available in Power Apps. So if you click on create and scroll down, so these are the list of few templates which are readily available. Let's say leave request, which we just talked about. This is one of the template readily available. When I click on this leave request and I want a tablet mode, and click on create. So this is a template given by Microsoft. And if you have the data and the list or SharePoint list or Dataverse rows readily available, you can connect those data sources to this particular application, and you can use this as your leave request application. So as this is a template, we need to build the connections, and we need to build that connection to all the particular list. So I'll just quickly show how this looks like. So you can build such kind of application with this good looking UI. I can log in as employee. So I can build a tab like this: my leave balance, company holidays. If I want to raise a leave, I can click on create new request. So from 22nd to 28th. So we can put a error message: start date must occur after date. So let's say 25 to 28. Title: I need a leave and I need vacation. Submit request. And all these requests will be shown here. So you can easily build these kind of applications. And there are many more templates readily available in Power Apps create page. And we can also build custom business case scenarios. So this is about the quick overview of Power Apps using Canvas apps. So we have many more to showcase. There are many more capabilities. There are multiple capabilities like AI Builder, image processing. One of the best example is, let's say you have business cards or invoices. So there are many organizations which provides invoices in a PDF format or on a paper. Let's say on a paper. So you want to read those invoices and store that information in Power Apps, like in any other data source. So we have that AI which is inside Power Apps. So you can just scan those images and push it to Power Apps, it will automatically fetch the information like customer name, invoice details, invoice items, and store the data in the tables. So we have that artificial intelligence we can also build using that. So if you are a UI designer, so a UI designers generally do design using a Figma tool. You can just upload the image through Figma image, and Power App will automatically recognize and it will build an application for you.
Hey,
So
Sai.
this is, yes, Rick.
This has been great. I want to be mindful and give you, there's been a couple questions. So if you want to wrap up in a minute or two, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to some of them.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all about Canvas apps, like in short.
Excellent. Well, that's been huge and insightful. You could almost make me dangerous, as you're a good teacher. And some impressive things that you've managed to accomplish too. Now's a good time if you have questions, if you can put them in the Q&A session, then we'll take them, and I'll have Sai kind of share a little bit more directed at some of the questions we have. Also, I want to let everybody know that if you, as a registrant, you're going to receive an email from us that will have a copy of the presentation as well as a link to the recording itself. You can also always go to the Pronix website and the webinars tab, and there you'll see all prior recordings for a lot of the other subjects that we've gone through in the past. And then of course, this recording will also be there shortly. So if you do want any information or the presentation or the recording, they should be to you shortly. So let me go through a couple of these questions I see, Sai. The first one I think you spoke to, but I just wanted to get some clarity. This is a Microsoft solution, and it comes to us as a SaaS subscription-based solution. And is it possible, I know that you were working through a browser, is browser the only way to access the platform?
So to answer you, Rick, technically it's about SaaS and PaaS application. So because Power App, Microsoft is providing a platform, that is a Power Apps platform to build an application. So Power App is a SaaS-based platform, but it is a platform to build a custom business application. So it's a kind of both SaaS and PaaS.
Okay, cool. And then another good question, two-part. First was, how do you decide which app development platform is best suited for the needs of the organization? And then the second one was, what's your approach to testing and QA for apps that are built?
So if you want an application in less amount of time, like we just saw, we can build leave request application, in just couple of hours, like end-to-end application. So, and in terms of licensing, if you want to use like a free license and use SharePoint as a data source, I would definitely go with the Canvas app. And coming to the testing and quality assurance, so in the Power App Studio, we can build test cases, we can automate the test cases, and Power Apps will automatically run those test cases and provide the result. So if it is passed or failed. So we can build such test cases within the Power App and run in the Power App Studio.
Great. And the final one, I think you spoke to a little bit, and this may vary, which is, what do you think the technical expertise are required to use Power Apps and Power Automate effectively? I know that I heard you say if you can do Excel and PowerPoint, you could be successful. I feel like I can do PowerPoint, a little bit of Excel, and I was a little intimidated by some of the things where you're changing the variables. So just a little bit more clarity, probably on what kind of level of Excel experience do you think is where you'd want to be to?
So I just said Excel experience because who uses Excel, so they know how to write basic expressions. So when I started, I don't have any knowledge, like I don't know C, Java, .NET. I don't have any programming language experience. So if I have to answer, so you don't have to have any coding language experience, like you don't need any programming language. There are few functions in Power Apps. So you just have to learn those functions, then you're good to go.
Great. We're just about at the top, and there was one more, I guess, a couple of good industry curiosities. why is it called a low code platform? I think that ties pretty nicely into your note that you didn't really have classic programming language experience. So what's your thought on the definition of low code?
So let's say if you want to build an application through .NET, so you have to line like big lines of code. Let's say minimum 100 lines of code. So if you want to submit the data, we need to write methods. We need to write some code like in a Visual Studio. So, and also you need to also work on the front end using HTML, CSS, JavaScript to make it responsive. When it comes to Power Apps, so we don't need all these because Power Apps will take care of all these, responsiveness and the front end look and feel. You just need to drag and drop. So if you want a text box, you don't have to design using HTML or any other code. You just need to drag and drop from the available controls. So, and to submit the data, we have some functions. So the reason being low code is just we have some functions to do some operations. So that's why we call low code.
Cool. And then you mentioned that there's a ton of integration connectors. One of the curiosities were, what are some of the types of applications? What's a handful? I know you've done a lot of different projects. What are a couple of the common ones that you've used the connectors for?
So connector is basically something like, we have a Canvas app, right? So if you want to connect to SQL, so SQL database, SQL database.
Sure.
So we have SQL connectors.
Okay.
You have an Excel spreadsheet in your OneDrive for business, and you want to build an application connecting Excel as a data source. We have Excel connector. So these connectors, work as a bridge between the application and the data source. So far we have nearly more than 600 plus connectors.
Have you used them for anything outside the Microsoft suites?
Sorry, Rick, I didn't get you.
Have you done an integration outside of Microsoft?
So
products?
Power App is basically for within the organization. So it works within the organization.
Okay. And then I think the last question we've got is, how do you think the Power Automate platform differs from other RPA tools, robotic process automation? I know there was chatbot and some other things, and I know you said in one of the projects you had done was automated approval. What's your thought on
So I would say there are multiple, there are main differences. Few of them are, integration with the Microsoft products. So you can integrate Power BI within the Power App, and vice versa. You can integrate Power Apps in the Power BI. So the integration good in Microsoft, Power Platform. So when let's take any other RPA tools, if you consider the UI, so it's not. I mean, in my personal opinion, it's not as smooth as Power Apps or Power Automate.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I appreciate that. Great job again today. I really appreciate everybody taking the time out and joining us. Very good questions. And like I said,